Rajesh, are you going to tell us when we are live? Okay, we are live. Hi, everybody. Happy Dasera. On this beautiful Sunday morning, I want to wish everybody a great, great year that's going to follow and one of the best festivals that we have in our culture. And today I am especially excited to introduce you to Mr. Hitesh Chudasama, who's part of our team and has been working with us in this beautiful city of Dehradun, where we've newly started the centers of Anatta University. And we would, it's pleasure of all our team members to introduce Mr. Hitesh as the experiential counselor. He's one of our best, and it's really great to have him in our team. So Hitesh, what would you like to tell the
Happy
audience?
Dashera, everyone. Happy Dashera, Vandana.
Happy to say that.
I'm so happy to be here in this beautiful place in Dehradun. We uh, started our new location here a few months ago, and I'm so happy to be and proud to be a part of it.
Yes, and from the time you've started here, you've been here. So from the inception in Dehradun, the Anatta inception in Dehradun, you've been part of us, and it's a delight. And viewers, it's a great opportunity to interview him because I have seen his journey from the beginning till now, and it's an amazing part of his life that he's going to share with all of you. And he stands as an experiential counselor here. And what do we mean by that? It's that he's had his own journey with his substance, which I would like him to tell you about, and how he's come out recovered and living this beautiful life on the other side of the fence. So here is to Hitesh. I would like to share a little bit about you, very tiny bit about you with the viewers. So Mr. Hitesh Chudasama stands 3 years, 8 months sober, and he's a successful businessman back in US, now with us to fulfill his calling as an experiential counselor. So here is Mr. Hitesh. Let him share his journey with you. I will start with the first question, viewers. So Hitesh, addiction is a common string that connects all our clients. You've met them one after the other. Though everybody's story is different. Do you agree?
Correct. Yes.
And what would be your sharing about your journey with addiction?
Okay. I came to recovery with Anatta in 2017, February of 2017. I was living in the U.S. Uh, I was uh, I grew up in the U.S. We migrated in 1970 and spent most of my life there. Um, uh, Growing up in the U.S. had its own challenges and such. It was a combination of Eastern values from traditional values of India with the American Western
Mm-hmm.
civilization culture. So growing up in that mixture was a bit of a challenge, and growing up with the back in the 70s and 80s, there weren't that many foreigners at the time as there are now. So most of my friends were all American. So that and the fact that I was an only child growing up,
Mm-hmm.
finding my way uh, through all the different uh, aspects of the U.S. And um, anyway, I grew up there. I went to school there, started my career there, and in that process, alcohol became a very major part of my growing up.
Life.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the social life there is it's heavy into alcohol. So uh, and dealing with problems on my own, I found alcohol was a um, it got rid of my inhibitions. It gave me a bit of courage. So I use that. I use that growing up and wanting to be a part.
Mm-hmm.
of something. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a part of uh, a group here or a group there, or being popular and
Finding
things.
your connection.
Correct,
Mm-hmm.
correct. So as the years went by, um, uh, during my college years especially, a lot of binge drinking.
Mm.
Um, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that in their college life as well. But I took it a step further, went uh, beyond what my capacity was,
Mm-hmm.
slowly increasing as the years passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then uh, spent some time in India. I spent a couple of years in Gujarat to know the culture and such.
So these were also your drinking days when you were
They
in
were my
Gujarat.
drinking days,
Okay.
yes. I had bouts of abstinence,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but overall, I continued to drink throughout
Mm-hmm.
those years. I got married in '92,
Mm-hmm.
came back to the US, and started my hotel career
Mm-hmm.
with my family. My father worked for him for a good 8 to 10 years. Then started on my own path of
Mm-hmm.
purchasing hotels and selling hotels and managing hotels and such. Did quite well. Was able to manage my drinking during that time. It was heavy drinking, but binge. I was a binge drinker,
Okay.
meaning I would often take 3 4 days out of a month or every 2 3 weeks and go off with my friends and just drink.
Okay.
Party for 2 3 days at a time.
So maybe not daily, but you would go on these binges
Correct.
every month
Correct.
after a couple of weeks.
Yes. Yes. So and then I'd come back, go back to work,
Mm-hmm.
continue with
Back
my
to normal life.
back to normal life.
Mm-hmm.
Quote quote.
Yeah.
So I did that for quite a few years, and I was able to manage my family and business life for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then it I don't know if it was the pressure of so much responsibility, or the fact that I was maybe in the wrong line of work
Okay.
that I wasn't happy in, though we were doing well financially, but uh, it was not what I wanted to do.
Not satisfactory to the levels that you would want.
Correct. It was be- become more about making money rather than finding uh, a level of happiness for myself,
Fulfillment.
fulfillment,
Hmm.
fulfillment. So that went on for quite a while, and then the unmanageability
Mm-hmm.
started to set in.
Mm-hmm.
I started not doing things that I was supposed to do in work, not spending enough time with the family. Um, Kids were growing up. I was still wanting to party with my friends, um, and that transition from uh, responsibility as I'm getting older.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I didn't want to let go of the happiness that I was getting from the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and I was increasing that and decreasing the responsibility. So that shift happened mm, after
So
two.
the alcohol that you were consuming, whether it was not daily, but it was the binge drinking, you would go back to it every third, fourth week.
Correct.
Was it occupying too much of your time?
Yes.
Mm.
And even when I wasn't drinking, the thought was in my head.
All right. So
The
it
thought,
just remains constantly on top of your mind.
correct. When we're not drinking, we're still thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
is a overpowering um,
Effect.
effect in our head.
Mm.
So then and then after I guess before 10 years before my recovery, I full-fledged drinking started to occur. Uh, could not work,
Mm-hmm.
could not be counted on to do things.
Mm.
Um, Irresponsibility started to set in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, hotel the hotels work and things started to get affected. So then obviously someone had to step in. So my wife was able to step in after a while to uh, if it wasn't
Support
me,
and help.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't me, it had to be someone.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, that would be gone.
Mm.
So I did get that support. I was lucky in that aspect. Um, and I continued my drinking because the thing, Vandana, is that even when we get tired of drinking,
Mm-hmm.
even we want to stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how to stop. So that search started within that period of time. Maybe the last 5 years of my drinking, uh, realizing that the problem is there,
Mm.
but the solution can't be found. Trying to do it on my own, I couldn't figure it out. And it was a constant thing in my head that I needed to figure out,
Mm.
but I didn't know how. So in the meantime, I continued.
So, coming to my next question, viewers, what has been your effort since you ended the previous question and you just said that since last 5 years you were looking for something
Mm,
or somebody who could help you out of it, but you
mm.
didn't know what you could do. So, were you looking for rehab, or what I would like to ask you is, what has been your efforts in finding the right treatment that worked for you, and which part of that treatment helped you continue remaining
So I was looking for a way out,
sober? Mm-hmm.
and at some point, I knew I needed help. I was reluctant because the fear of going to a rehab was there. Um, in the U.S., I went to a very nice rehab on the East Coast, and it was one of the best there. So I agreed with the family pressure and all, and I myself knew in the back of my head that I needed to go. So I did go, and after a very long binge, um, uh, I went to the rehab. And as you know, Vandana, in most of the rehabs in the U.S., they have a 30-day program,
Okay.
and that 30 days is basically all you get, and you have to do whatever you need to do within 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And we know now that 30 days is not enough. So I did that. I did the 30 days, and I was able to remain abstinent for an 8-month period
You did.
after that.
After the
Yes,
30-day program, you remained sober for 8 months.
8 months. And I don't want to get into the details of what they do at the rehab, but um, uh, the uh, the differences I can tell you later. I was still looking. I thought at the time I thought that this was enough,
Mm.
and because when you remain abstinent from alcohol, your brain and your body and your mind start to clear up after a few months, and you think you have it under control, but your thinking process has not changed. You know, the way you behave,
Mm.
the way you see things, the way you do things, your all these things um, come with a sort of a spiritual awakening, if I may call it, or a growing from inside. And those things are needed in recovery. And um, the rehabs I went to, the rehab I went to, did not incorporate that part of the recovery process. So that was one thing that was missing. Anyway, I went, I think it was 2009,
Okay.
2010, I had gone there.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, I, after relapsing, or I don't even want to call it relapsing because I was being abstinent from drinking. You know, people can stay abstinent for a significant period of time in their lives um, through sheer willpower. But eventually, that's not,
Enough.
for a long term
Mm.
recovery, it's not enough. So I started drinking again, and and then finally I wanted, after speaking with you, I found Anatta on the website, and with also with family help with family, and February 5th was my last drink. February 6th morning, I believe I
Yes.
reached Pune
Mm-hmm.
in a very bad state, and my recovery began then. And uh, that question of um, uh, how did you say it? Um,
Remaining sober, continue to remain sober. So
yeah,
that's the
the
second part
effort,
of the
the effort,
question, the
yeah,
effort.
the effort to get help, the effort required to ask for help was
Mm-hmm.
it's a tremendous amount of effort.
Needs a lot of courage.
Correct.
So Here you are, and you did land on the 5th of February 2017. But everybody should know I was the one to go pick him up, and he was not in a state to even talk. But fortunately, from the 6th of February, this man has turned a new leaf, and he's living that sober life since then. So, Hitesh, you mentioned something about a person and the behavior. Can I term that those as character defects a person develops while
Yes,
drinking for a very long period of time?
correct.
Can you explain character defects?
Okay. Um, the individual I was before I started drinking, the individual I was during my drinking years, and the individual I was after my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Before and after, the person I am is my true self, right? And during those years of drinking, how do I explain it? Character defects, everything that could go wrong goes wrong. And we as alcoholics have to adapt, whether through anger, whether through resistance to everything, defense mechanism, being defensive towards everyone,
Mm-hmm.
um, finding excuses. We have to cheat, we have to lie, we have to hide. Um, the truth becomes so blurred
Mm-hmm.
that we believe our life.
Yes.
We believe uh, our lives so much that we tell lies to others, thinking that we're telling the truth
And we tell lies to self.
to ourselves, especially. Yeah, and obviously, if we can't be honest with ourselves, we can't
Mm-hmm.
be honest with others.
Mm-hmm.
So those, yes, character defects. The difference is the awakening process that I went through during my recovery. Those 3.5 months I spent at Anatta, um, something within me shifted, and the change just required a different path,
Mm-hmm.
And when we're looking for it, looking for it, and looking for it, and we want it so badly, and suddenly it's shown to you, you just want to go there and just hang on to that. It's like holding onto a tail of a lion and letting him pull you through. That's all you have to do is let go and um, continue with the path.
So then, if you're telling me this, which was that? Can you describe the right moment or moment or that recovery? You could see that this is your right path as you're mentioning, and I'm at the right place. So, which part of anatta, or which duration, which meditation, what worked with you eventually?
It's different for each individual person when they get that change or
Mm-hmm.
how they get that change between the different modules, the module we use. So with the writing,
Mm-hmm.
with the meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and with the sharing and counseling that we receive. For me, the majority of it was the meditation, I believe. I think through my meditation, I was able to um, find that stillness in me. And when that stillness started to happen, I started to think clearly. And it's like having everything is there, right? And if you wear glasses, if you don't wear glasses, it's there, but you can't see it clearly. But once you put the glasses on, it's clear. So that's what happened with me.
Mm-hmm.
Is with the meditation, it made me clear, and I was able to see,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when the shift occurred.
Mm.
And I think it happened maybe the third week
Okay.
of my recovery,
Mm.
and um, the and then at that point I knew that this was going to work.
The right place at the
This
right
was
time.
exactly the right place at the right time.
Mm. What would be my next question, viewers, is there's a journey. Now, this is a generic question I'm asking, and
Sure.
you have to tell me your own understanding. There is journey with living a sober life, and there is a journey with addiction. So, what would you want to tell the viewers? The difference.
Okay. I would say that the journey with addiction is not of one's choosing.
Mm-hmm.
You are, it's like a roller coaster you just have to hang on.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes you ups and downs, ups and downs. And with recovery, it's you have a sense of purpose. And with that sense of purpose comes recovery, and with recovery comes a sense of purpose. I don't know how else to describe it. You are in control,
Hmm.
though it is also a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Uh, but you have a steering, and you know where you want to go. Uh,
Becomes your choice.
it becomes your choice. Right.
Mm.
So that journey of recovery was a wonderful one for me, though it had its ups and downs as well. Um, but my calling is different for everyone. My calling was wanting to show others what I went through. You
Hmm.
know, that feeling that I got inside, that shift that I felt,
Hmm.
and then helping others and seeing it in their eyes, seeing
Hmm.
them shift through, and seeing um, the light come, and knowing that they've gone through that same feeling as you have.
Hmm.
It's an amazing feeling, and that's why what attracted me with counseling. Um, uh, it was uh, it was a transition from being a client
Hmm.
to becoming a counselor, and that transition um, is a good one. I'll also add that even when I was a client, and we as alcoholics know
Hmm.
that part of our recovery is helping others. It's only natural that we want to um, share
Hmm.
with others when we were going through recovery, and that itself is counseling. And so switching to uh, working full time as a counselor, it's not that much different. I mean, you're still sharing, and it just comes with more responsibility and more work. But as far as counseling, what is counseling? We want to make the other person understand um, what we went through with by uh, giving them experiences of our own life,
Hmm.
so they can relate to that.
Hmm.
So that is what I do.
So, as you viewers, we are in nature, and there's a big spider on Hitesh's collar. I'm going to move it. Yeah, thank you. So, as you shared, I'm going to continue asking you more questions with
Certainly.
your own sharing.
Mm.
So, there is a question come up, Hitesh. I can see it.
Yes.
What do you mean when you say suffering with alcohol? Very good question, Hurisha. Thank you.
Suffering with alcohol. There's many. I mean, I can give you a few examples. Um, our families suffer
Mm-hmm.
because of our drinking. We suffer through. I can remember agonizing withdrawals, um, uh, being on a 4 or 5 day binge, meaning drinking from morning till night, waking up and drinking again,
Mm.
and then having to stop because eventually you have to stop for a little while. At least I did, and then 3 or 4 days of just flu-like symptoms and a lot of pain. So I was suffering mentally suffering, uh, guilt. For those days I drank and things that I may have not been part of doing during my drinking. Um, so it was suffering all the time. If you're not mentally suffering, you're physically suffering. You're going through uh, fights with your family members. You're going through problems which multiply at work because you keep putting them off, or you making the wrong decisions because of the alcohol. So those are the types of suffering that I went through.
But tell me something. People do glorify it as to be a solution. It's a solution to all problems. They glorify it. And there is a pleasure aspect also attached to it. Why are so many people drinking
I
or
love
continue to drink?
a good question. I love to drink when I was drinking, especially when I was uh, it was a social event. When I was socially drinking, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And after so many years, I used it as a numbing tool to numb my emotions.
To numb your emotions.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I also used it to not deal with problems that uh, I had to face. And then after drinking, I don't have to face those problems. So it's a temporary thing.
So you think this way that it's a
Mhm.
solution to my problems. I'm not
Yes,
looking at it. So let me continue drinking as much as I want and just be away
correct.
from the responsibility or whatever is the
Let someone
action.
else
Yeah,
solve the
let
problem.
someone else take over
Correct.
and you're fine with that.
Yeah.
So is it really a solution?
No.
Numbing the emotions is a solution.
Mhm. Because we suppress them in our emotion. You know?
And they remain
And
inside
they
us.
remain inside. And as you know, Vandana, um, why we do the writing and meditations is to face those emotions.
Hmm.
And once we face those emotions, we are able to put them aside, and they have no more power over us. And we can go beyond, uh, continue with our lives in a joyful manner.
Hmm.
So yes, that's a good question.
So again, I found another question from your last sentence, which is joy. You said joy.
Mm.
So the joy perception that people have who depend on alcohol,
Mm.
okay, how do we, you and I as counselor, help them to detach from the joy perception? So you did mention writing and meditation. So how are all these three things connected?
Okay, so initially the euphoria is there.
Mm-hmm.
We drink and we reach that euphoric state. But then that's only temporary. Why do we continue to drink for days and days at a time? To bring back that euphoria, you know.
Keep chasing.
Exactly. That's why we can't have one drink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it leads to another, and it increases, and eventually we pass out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then, when we're in recovery, we do the meditations, the writing, the sharing. Um, when we start off uh, doing the meditations, it slowly and gradually calms our mind. You know, it brings us to a state where we're not overthinking, we're not anxious, the anxiety comes down, the stress level comes down.
Mm-hmm.
And once that starts, then as we start to think clearly and we start our writing, that writing makes us face those emotions, right? Because we have to write about our past, things that are bothering us, things that have affected us all throughout our life from childhood onwards. And those things are hidden. And as we write, things become more and more available. Our memory comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And when we write about them, we face those emotions and uh, we deal with those emotions. Because in the beginning, I didn't want to deal with it. I
Did
knew
you
it
did
was
you
coming.
avoid writing? Did you push it away for some time?
I would push them. I would only write about things that were not so
Bad.
bad.
Uh-huh.
Then slowly I knew that this was working, and then
You went
dug
deeper.
deep. I dug deep. Yeah.
So I have another question coming from one of our viewers is about the same thing what you just shared. How did you learn to deal with your emotional states during the treatment without alcohol?
It was up and down.
Mm,
I mean, there were good days and there were bad days during recovery. There was days where I was so frustrated um, and so down that I didn't want to speak with anyone. I didn't want to see anyone. You know, I would stay in my room. Um, there was days when I didn't want to share. But the thing that I remembered was nothing lasts. You
mm,
know, everything is constantly changing. Going through bad emotions and bad days, if you just be patient, you know, it also passes.
we shall pass.
This shall pass too. And then I was able to share, and then I
Mm,
was able to write, you
mm.
know. So that's how I dealt with it during recovery. I was with through the meditations, it gave me the patience to go through that, those ups and downs during recovery.
So what I get from your sharing, Hitesh, it was ups and downs before
Mm,
while you were drinking. It was ups and downs while you were in the
mm,
centers, various centers, and even at Anatta. And after that,
mm,
when you're sober, for
mm.
these last 3 years, 8 months, there have been ups and downs.
Right.
Why is this side still better? This side of the
We
fence.
worked hard to get to becoming alcoholics.
Hmm.
It wasn't easy. We worked hard. We did a lot of drinking. We took a lot of pain,
Hmm.
and it only goes that we have to work just as hard to get out of it. You know, even though the recovery. I mean, it's you think about it. 30 years of drinking
30 years of drinking.
in 3.5 months recovery. You know, that's a miracle. You know,
Yes,
and
I totally agree.
yeah, in 3.5 months, if you can um, get on the path.
Hmm.
I mean, the growth and the it continues even after your initial stay with us,
The process begins.
the process
Hmm.
begins, and then you live with that process, and you continue growth inwardly, spiritually, you continue growth. So I'm still growing, even after 3.5 years, I'm
You
still
just
growing.
can't stop.
Correct.
You have to keep going on one day at a time.
Exactly.
Still tell me, why is this side of the fence? Tell me more.
So when, after my recovery, I began to see things with a different light
Hmm.
because uh, literally I was trained to think differently, right? Um, More positive, with eyes wide open, if you would prefer. And then everything that I did, I used to do with alcohol. I used to go skiing with alcohol. I used to play golf with alcohol. Everything I did was related to alcohol. And then suddenly I realized that when I went back with a sense of purpose, that all the other activities were so much more enjoyable. Hiking, whitewater, whatever I did, whatever, whoever you are, whatever you do, it becomes more enjoyable because you're there. You're there in the moment.
Hmm.
Before you can't stay in the moment when you're in some state of intoxication. You when you're present in the moment, enjoying life the way at that moment, there's nothing better than that. So that's the huge difference.
Each and every moment is cherished while it's happening,
Correct.
and there are memories which remain in your mind and they keep you joyful and happy. So the joy perception which was attached to your bottle has now shifted to these activities, and you can't just forget it. It's
Yeah.
there with you all the
Yeah.
time. But while you were drinking, and if you did these activities, maybe you didn't remember the next morning what all did you did and how you
Right.
did. You go through blackouts?
Lots of breakups. Lots of fights at home
Mm-hmm.
with family members. Lots of times going out and not even know how I came back
Hmm.
home. There was a lot of blackout stages, and those who do drink heavily, like I do, for extended periods of time, is almost normal to have some type of blackout. You may not forget everything the whole
Hmm.
night, but there will be long episodes of
Hmm.
um,
Gaps.
gaps.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we don't know what we did. We don't know what we say. We don't know. I've woken up in the hospital and not remembering what happened. So things, it's it, it's a progressive disease, and once you are into the flow of drinking, blackouts will occur. Yeah,
That's also part of the
correct.
pains attached to dependency,
Dependence.
alcohol. So now, Hitesh, since you are part of our team
Oh.
at Anatta as an experiential counselor, how has it added value to you as a person and in your interaction?
Value in my life, it- that feeling of, so we all want to be a part of something,
Hmm.
you know, and we all have a purpose. Well, either we're looking for a purpose in our life or we have a
Hmm.
purpose. So the value is that my purpose for so many years, I'm 50
Hmm.
plus years old, and I didn't know what my purpose was for the longest time. And finding that purpose and helping others, and the main purpose for me was to be able to share that great experience of recovery and give it to someone else, and even if I can help one person, uh, it, that that's enough value for me. So but in my personal life, um, I'm obviously proud of myself.
Hmm.
That increases value, um, and others see me, they obviously they're proud of me, you know. And one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life was stop drinking. Um, Having a business, being successful, all these things are important, but and they're difficult. But to me, that addiction was very difficult to let go of. You don't want to let go of it, because it's been part of you for so long that taking something away like that is like it's from inside. So that was difficult for me, and obviously I value every value and cherish every moment of my recovery.
And you could relate with the newcomers
I
that
do.
you come to Anatta and tell them about your journey from the past to
Mm.
where you are, even while you were at Anatta and the coming days that are happening
Yeah,
with
yeah. I mean, when they start sharing their stories, and I'm able to relate um, almost every incident that they share, I have something I can share along with them, so they understand that they're
you.
not alone. You
Mm,
know, I'm able to give them uh, a sense of camaraderie,
mm-hmm.
that they're not alone. You know
Mm-hmm.
that I've been through it too, and hopefully they can pick up on things that I've been through and progress as I do.
So, experiential counseling is mainly showing the clients that we are walking the talk
Correct,
and not preaching.
correct.
What?
One of the best things about experiential counseling is that the individual is sitting next to me, and he's sharing a very personal thing about his life,
Mm,
which is not easy in
yeah.
the beginning, because we're so used to hiding,
Mm,
everything,
mm.
emotions, um, everything.
Is boxing up all of it.
Yeah, and then when they start sharing, right, and they see in my face that I understand that, because I've been there, and I share a similar story with them, and to them it's like, wow, that uh, I'm not the only person who has gone through that, and then they see me that I've made it, and for them it's like, if he did it, I can do it. Mahesh was an inspiration to me. He 17, 8+ years sober, and he related to me so many stories
Mm-hmm.
that I was able to relate to, and I'm thinking to myself, if this guy can do it, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm. So we get the connect while you share your experience and you kind of build the connection with
Mm,
the newcomer,
correct.
right? Also, tell me in this whole program, according to you,
Mm.
what are the benefits when a person is told that you're not alone in this, as we just shared, that you're not alone? Why is it that important for him or her?
We often, as we come into recovery, I remember when I was a client, uh, I was scared. I didn't know anybody. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how the program was going to work. I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
My particular thing was that I just wanted to please everyone, make
Mm-hmm.
sure I'm doing the right thing, and and sharing was, in the beginning, was also difficult. Um, but then, when, along with other clients and the counselors, when they shared circumstances that I could relate to, I felt inside an understanding where uh, I could, I'm not alone,
Mm-hmm.
you know, though they're not holding my hand and walking the path with me. And they are showing me that I've been down that path. You also can take that path.
So there is loneliness too.
There is loneliness,
There's loneliness.
because that confidence that you
Mm.
gain is what gets you through that loneliness, and by sharing, and by able to relate to one another, that confidence builds, and that loneliness, it subsides, and once that goes away, that I'm not alone, that these guys are here to help me, that they're going to be here even after their recovery. We're
Mm.
always here for them.
Yes. Yes.
That gives that confidence, that boost, that
Mm.
push, and we're able to take that first step, second step towards recovery.
Coming back to your life again, your own story. You spent 3.5 months with Anatta, and then you returned back to your work life, your family life back in the US.
Yes.
How was that experience when you went back?
So before going back, I made sure that my foundation first was strong, and that I knew what I wanted to do. Right? I had a plan,
Mm-hmm.
2-year plan, that I wanted to achieve this much,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to go back, and with the advice of the team, um, staying away from alcohol, stay away from parties, the good advice that they gave me, I was able to go back and pursue my um, my goals, and one day at a time, keep going, starting from the bottom with my businesses as an employee again, and then working my way up and having uh, been able to have my dad retire, taking care of the hotels and such and so forth. So I was that uh, that journey from leaving Anatta, going back and working with a passion because I had so many things that I wanted to accomplish,
Mm.
and that was just the first stage,
Mm.
getting through this. If I can get through this, I can get through anything. So after the first year, um, I a realization came to me that I actually made it. You know, my family, my wife and children, they threw me a surprise party, and so many people showed up. And at that point, I had tears in my eyes because I knew at that moment that I had made it. That
Mm.
these people were actually proud of me. That yes,
Mhm.
uh, we finally got there. That because what we have to do, we have to prove to ourselves. We have to gain that respect back. That respect that we lost. Is not an easy thing to
Mm.
get back, and it was all an uphill battle. And I got that respect back. I knew at that moment after the first year that I had made it. So it was a wonderful journey.
So, Mr. Suresh, I have asked you the same question. Can you explain more about how you rebuilt your career? So, Mr. Hitesh has answered you, Suresh. Thank you for asking the question. I've got one more question for you. It's from Mr. Manish. He's watching us while we are talking. Is your definition of recovery? How do you define recovery?
Looking back, um, I actually had a moment of awakening.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling, that shift that I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
was a moment of awakening inside me, and it was a growth in me that spurted, and a spiritual growth, and I, I I can't describe it in any other way than that alcoholism became just a side of a thing that got recovered
Mm-hmm.
along with everything else in me. It was like that's one part that got solved, then another part got solved, and so that recovery in me was also a change in my um, from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
That that joy that comes out, that feeling of content, that I'm not always living in the future or living in the past. I'm on that road, that journey. Being present more than I'm uh, anywhere else.
Productive too.
Productive too.
Hitesh, in my own experience, and you've also experienced, not everybody goes to a rehab.
Mm,
Mhm. And some of them quit alcohol on their own,
mm,
and some go through a proper treatment program and recover.
mm.
What is your understanding? Program recovery or can recover on their
I would. I mean, if there are people who have recovered for a very long time on their own, um, but they're very rare. I
own?
mean, I know maybe one or two. Um, they're people who, through some sort of spiritual awakening, um, have have gone and recovered through a program, whether it's with Anatta or some other place. But um, the main thing is that they find what's inside,
Mm-hmm.
and that I think is the key. Um, some
Some understanding of self is required.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. As Mahesh described it, because he put this program together and knew what works,
Mm-hmm.
and going through that uh, unknown journey,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, having something what do you call it, a template, and following it and
Mm-hmm.
working it is is an amazing thing for because I remember that I couldn't find it. You know,
Mm.
I couldn't find the path. I wanted to find the
So we
recovery.
need a counselor, an experienced person before us to help us pass through or design a roadmap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so when I would say that what I have noticed in my experience that a person can recover on their own if they
Mm,
wish to,
mm,
if they desire to
mm,
quit alcohol. But I don't see the transition happening in a joyful manner. I
mm,
sometimes find them in low energy. Whereas when we do our alternate life therapy program at Anatta and connect while going for a movie, for a drive, a great hearty meal together, and sharing one on one,
yeah.
that brings up a lot of laughter at times.
Yes.
Sadness is also taken care of.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
Builds confidence in a person stepping out on his own. The transition of getting back to society, even going back home, all that takes a heavy toll on all you guys.
Right.
Tell me something. This alternate life therapy program I just shared, how did that work for you? And because you stayed with us, you gave us enough time.
Yeah.
We let you go out on your own without any counsel.
Right.
How did that work?
See, first of all, recovery should always be joyful.
Hmm.
I mean, though it's hard work, but you should enjoy the recovery, because if you're not enjoying the recovery, then you're not going to want the recovery. You want to give 100%. How do you give it 100% for something you want?
Hmm.
And doing it joyfully, and or the program we that is set up
Hmm.
is through so many other activities that we do, right? And like you said, once my confidence level increased and my responsibility, you guys gave me a car. I was able to go shopping, to the movies or
On your
whatever
own.
on my own.
And initially we would come with you,
Correct.
but later on you went totally on your own and for a good number of days.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. So I enjoyed that more than, I mean, I had the confidence before I left that I'm on my own. When I go back, I'll also be on my own. So that that process is actually needed. So a full uh, time span. I mean, y- some people take 2 3 months,
Mm.
some take 6 to 8 months.
Mhm. It's
Uh,
individual, it's person to
their
person.
own pace.
Mhm. Thank you. I would just, there is a question coming from the viewer. How has recovery augmented your decision making? This is from Neelam Ramchandani. Hitesh, how has recovery augmented your decision making?
Uh, I would I would say it this way. When I was drinking, a problem would come to me, okay? And I would always, that whatever question I had, whatever problem had occurred to me, I would want it, I didn't want the responsibility of taking that
Mm-hmm.
problem or
Mm-hmm.
solving that problem,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know whether it was right or wrong. And what I would do is give it to dad, or give it to my wife, or
Mm-hmm.
give it to my kids, and and they would solve the problem. I'm no longer responsible for it, you know. And once I recovered, you know, I found out that I've lost all that power of making choices, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody else is making the choice for me,
Yeah,
and that becomes a habit. So after drinking, I slowly realized that I need to make that choice,
on your own.
whether it's right or wrong. It
Mm.
is, it doesn't matter, but the choice has to be mine, because the responsibility is mine. So I think that's the best way I can
So
answer
tell me something when it first happened.
it.
How did you feel? Did
Feel
you
very,
shake a bit, little
yeah,
nervous?
yeah. And it was a transition again, because taking on responsibility and making choices was something I wasn't used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I was scared. I mean, literally, I came across a problem and realized that my first instinct was to push it off on someone else. Then I realized that this is not going to work, because people will not respect me if I keep doing that. So I did. I took it on, and realized that it's okay to be wrong.
It's all right. It's
Yeah,
just all right.
it's
We
just all right.
learn with our mistakes and our experiences.
Exactly.
is it necessary uh, that we should take on too much responsibility as we return?
No,
How should we first we enter our home, our space? Easy does it? Should we follow that?
yeah. I'll. My experience was that initially I started working back at one of the hotels
Mhm.
in, as an employee, and day by day, week by week, paycheck by paycheck, I took on a little more responsibility each day, each week, each month, and as I knew I would, because I had the confidence that all the knowledge and um, uh, it was there. I had it in me to do it, and so one day at a time, a little bit at a time. Don't bite more than you can chew.
Yeah.
Bite off more. And so the key was persistence, perseverance, and patience. Yeah.
So Mr. Shantanu says congratulations on getting here and all the best for further on. You got this too.
Thank you so much, Shantanu.
So viewers, if there are any more questions, you can send it to us. Oh, here we are. We've got a question. Mr. Rajesh Menon is asking, how difficult is it to admit that one needs help? What triggered you to seek help? Most of us do not admit that there is a problem.
It was very difficult to admit uh, that I could not do it on my own. I wanted so badly to be able to do it on my own. I was recovering for 3, 4 weeks, going to the gym. Finally, am physically at least back to and thinking that I can handle it. But then, for whatever reason, everyone's always asking, when you're sober,
Mhm.
why do you go and get that first drink?
Mhm.
But that's what alcoholics do. We go and get that first drink. So, yeah, it was very difficult to get help, and it's I can't answer why, but I can tell you it was difficult. Uh, Once I did admit, um, and
Like we get
you
sick
get
and
tired
tired of
of
being sick
sick and
and tired,
tired.
and we
Exactly.
do we don't know how to ask for help, but something in our body is almost yelling and
Yelling.
asking for help.
Correct. Correct. So yeah, I mean, I was the pain. For me, it was the pain of the withdrawals and having that cycle,
Mhm.
over and over again, recovering, coming back, getting drunk again, recovering, coming,
Mhm.
and I couldn't break away from it. And
Your
I
body must be taking its own toll
told
on your body.
correct. If you remember when I before
Mm-hmm.
I came 3 or 4 days earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a binge and I knew had to get here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was finally fed up and I wanted to come. Uh, so
You could not hold it anymore, and this was the time that you felt that help is required
correct,
at this hour right now.
correct.
So, Hitesh,
Mm,
my life, as you just said, pain.
mm,
You just mentioned pain.
mm.
Define pain in addiction.
Pain is mental suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Pain is in it's inside. We're hurting. We're hurting all the time, constantly, and we get so used to the pain. That uh, we will live with it for so long. We think it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then not until we get through recovery and it's gone, that burden is lifted, that pain is lifted,
Mm-hmm.
it's that suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we don't realize it until we step back and see. Once it's gone, then you realize how much pain you are in. When you're in that, um, whether it's physical or mental, uh, it's constantly there, and you never want to go back to that.
Does it hurt that bad? That bad that you should seek help, and you feel the next drink might relieve you from the pain?
It was always that thought process that drinking more always temporarily relieved us of mental and physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but how long can you do that? How many years can you do that until it no longer works? That you have to find a more permanent solution, you know, uh, for whatever problems that I was facing. Alcohol was uh, only a temporary thing, and it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So tell me an incident of him. Can you share a particular experience?
Sure. Um, I'll actually the last one I'll
Mm.
share with you.
Mm.
Um, I had missed my daughter's graduation.
Mm-hmm.
That mental pain. Um, I was my blood pressure was so high during the flight to Pune, uh, but and the the strain of having to keep drinking, because I knew the withdrawal was coming,
Mm-hmm.
because that experience I had that if I stopped drinking, I would be in so much pain. I don't know if I would be able to make it or not.
So you continued drinking.
Continued drinking for I think 2 3 days. It took me to reach Pune,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then finally it was in your hands. And Dr. Sujata had got me through them with the least amount of pain. But that suffering of knowing that I let my family down, and it was a common occurrence, but that one obviously will stay with me because you can't bring time back. Though she understands now that what I was going through.
Your daughter
Daughter,
understands.
yeah, Sonia.
Mm.
Um, but that was one instance in my life that I, at the time, regretted.
Have you been able to sit down with her and share this painful experience from your side? Like, how did you feel while you were still going away?
It's an
Missed the graduations on the flight to a rehab center. Were you able to share with her all this?
it's an ongoing process for
Mm.
me. We are uh, slowly building our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm able to share a lot more with her now than I was before, and mm, it takes two, on my part as well and on her part as well. So, yeah, I'm progressing towards that. Yes,
So, Hitesh, while it's very hopeful and nice to be on this side of the fence, and you're getting back, as you said, sharing with your daughter and your son, other relatives in your life, approximately how much does a person take to get back to life? Complete. It's a process, I agree, but how much space and time do you need once you go?
personally, it took me a good 2+ years.
Okay.
Yeah. First year, you can ask any uh, physician, the brain, though it's very, how do you say it? It recovers very well,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes time to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So you that normal because I mean 30 years of drinking, we don't know what normal is,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it took a couple of years for me to start my thinking process in such a way where things are that people who don't drink are take for granted, and I had to rebuild all those thinking skills. I had to and because it becomes autonomous for, after a time that a decision comes, you make the decision, you move on. Well, but people who can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to do that right off the bat. It took time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 2 years was
Minimum.
minimum.
So I could also say to the viewers that it can take 2 to 5 years
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
and it's a benefit that you should get because you have quit. That much space and time should be given to a person
of
once he
course.
goes back.
Yeah,
It works for both the dependent and the
and the
codependents.
code is correct.
What about follow-ups? How are follow-ups important in a recovery
Independence is important, first of all. Being able to know that you can take care of yourself,
program? Mm-hmm.
not relying on anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
your family or anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But follow ups are very important in the fact that once I realized that I, the group of friends that I had built around Anatta, going back to my old friends, I could not relate to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I have very few people who I can talk
Relate.
to,
Okay.
relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So going back and doing a follow up for 2 3 days is it just builds that uh, it, it's like you're progressive and then you may get stagnant and then when you come back for a follow up you gives you a boost to keep
Boost.
going again. You know, I since I was in the U.S. I wasn't able to come as much as I want to,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, if you're able to, definitely follow-ups are very important.
Mm-hmm.
I stagnated for the longest time,
Mm.
though I never um,
Slipped or
slipped or
relapsed.
relapsed, but I did go through periods of time where I became stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
So even a phone call helps you that with that boost.
Mm.
So uh, follow-ups are
So the
very important.
connect back with your counselors, with your new family that is another
Yeah,
family, or the rehab that you've gone to,
yeah,
is is also imperative in the recovery program.
correct.
You can't do without that.
Yeah,
So we do suggest it to our clients to come every 45, 60 days
yeah,
in the first year, and then progressively how they feel they can come, and they are most welcome to come within our environment.
correct.
Now I'm almost coming to the end of the program. Tell me, how is Dehradun working for us as our luxury rehab center?
We have two beautiful centers right now, or villas, you want to call them, and they are set in such a serene and serenity is the word for it. I mean, surrounded by mountains, trees and flowers. I wish I could show the viewers. It's a good tour.
We can send the pictures later. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's I would. There's nowhere else I would rather be.
Mm.
Dehradun is probably um, uh, where I would choose to recover.
And in the corona times, this is working best for us because the cases are very few.
So few, yes.
It's easier to conduct the program that we would like to
Correct,
do, the alternate life therapy
correct.
program of not only being in the center all the time, moving out a bit.
Yes,
Doing the therapy program of 5 to 6 years is a very strong part of our daily work with the clients and
correct.
with each other. We
Yes,
also participate in the 5 to 6 hours of therapy program. Beyond that, there is relaxation and rejuvenation. There are jokes shared. There are meals prepared together and
yes,
shared, sitting on the same table, and sharing about family and ourselves, our own journey is how I think even as counselors, we have started living this life,
yeah. I
walking
mean,
the talk like all the time.
correct. The flexibility was amazing.
Hmm.
The program is set up so much that we're I, I was able to enjoy what I love to do: go swimming, go to the gym, um, nature walks, hiking, whatever. It's customized to
The
each
person,
individual, whatever
yes.
they love to do.
Hmm.
So that was very nice for me.
So therapy time as well as relaxation
Mm.
is a great
Yeah,
amalgamation of the whole Anatta program.
correct. Yes.
Another viewer, so this would be the last question that I would be asking. It's just come to me. How important, sorry viewers, we are going back to talking about family. How important do you think it was for your family to receive help like?
It was what I went through during my recovery. Family does not go through.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The growth that I experienced in those 3.5 months um, is me.
Mm-hmm.
Family is not going through that, right? So if I'm progressing um, in a certain manner and then I go back, uh, nothing has changed at home.
Mm-hmm.
I have changed. They have not. So as much time as the codependent can um, be involved in the recovery is very important for their understanding, for the return of their loved ones, and being able to relate with them
Mm-hmm.
because they've changed. And though the codependent is still in the mentality was, can I trust him? Can I still, what? How do I react to him? All these questions can be answered by working along with you and as a codependent counselor. Yeah, it's very important, and actually, it's I would say mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see any other way around it. Um, they need to be a part of the recovery, not only for the uh, client himself, but for them,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for their growth. I've seen people do it reluctantly afterwards and say, "Thank God I went," or right off the bat, So I would highly recommend.
And your family did give me a good amount of time, Hitesh. I should say that. they participated in wherever I asked them to be in the whole program, and the meditations that you did, we were able to conduct it together too with the family. I was sent to the US by you and
Yeah.
the other counselors to take care of your family there, because if all cannot come, we can go to them. So recovery for the dependent and the codependent is equally important.
Mm.
If they cannot spend as much time as the dependent, but a good amount of substantial amount of time
Mm.
should be put in this area. Why? Because when, as you said, when the person comes back and there are eggshells,
Mm.
you are also treading on them, they are also treading on
Mm.
their own thought processes coming in their way.
Mm.
So to make the process easy, dependent program and the codependent program goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
and it gives the dependent to confidence that somewhere some kind of counseling or understanding has come within my loved ones,
Mm.
and I could relate to that and they could relate back to you.
Yeah.
So as important for
It's
your
like
work.
having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
However much you want to get prepared,
Mm-hmm.
before the birth,
Mm-hmm.
so all the preparation is for that only, the
Mm-hmm.
return of the client.
Yes.
And I would say, I would go so far as to say that the being part of the recovery, coming to the centers,
Mm-hmm.
everything is important.
Mm. I feel when we were talking about follow up, even they need that and they should get the benefit of follow up
Sure.
too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, looks like we are at the end of the program. Viewers, thank you for spending your Sunday morning with Hitesh and Vandana on this beautiful day of Dasera. Have a lovely, lovely day and enjoy with your loved ones. Thank you. We are signing off. Bye bye.
Bye bye.